All right, it's the game is a game, NFL live stream of consciousness. So I'm gonna get to you guys every day. I'm gonna record every day. There's always something to talk about NFL wise, so definitely look out for that content. Hit subscribe. We have some videos coming out, some long form videos where I break things down. And I do the Who Has a Belt series in the NBA. I think I might actually do that NFL wise. I don't want to do every position, but the quarterback position, wide receiver position, I think those two, running back position, the offensive positions just in general, generally garner a lot of debate. So I think that would be fun with that. So I'll probably do one of those as well. This week with Super Bowl coming up, I'm gonna give tomorrow. I'm gonna do a breakdown on how I think the Bengals can win. Thursday, I'll do a breakdown on how I think the Rams can win, and then I'll give my final prediction on Friday. And I'll throw in prop bets every day that I think that I like. And Friday, I'll pick the actual game. And on Saturday, we'll do some prop bets as well. So definitely subscribe and look out for that content. So around the NFL, all the positions have been hired. So the coaching carousel is done as far as that is everybody. The big story in the NFL is the Brian Flores lawsuit. My thoughts on it are at the end of the day, you can't really force the owners to hire black coaches. You can have the Rooney rule all you want, but the owners are going to hire who they want. Um, you can't really legislate that. I think that there is some antitrust protection that someone mentioned that might be an area where like litigation could matter, but I just don't see that as something that, at least from what Brian Flores has put forward, is going to be something that rocks the league and gets them to change. I just don't. You can't force them to change. You know, the NFL is a little different. You have an older guard. You still have a lot of you know, guys. I think like what the owner of the Bengals is what, like 85? The owner of the Bengals. Um, so you have a lot of guys. Let's look that up. Mike Brown. So Mike Brown was born in 1935. You know, so you have guys who were born and actually live life. You know, he was 27, 28 when segregation was not allowed, when what Brown was the Brown Board of Education. In 1954, when segregation got struck down. This guy was born in 35. So I'm not saying that he's racist or he believes in segregation or anything. I'm just saying that these owners, they just come from a different cloth. And Bomani Jones made a good point that, one of the problems with racism against African Americans is that they inherently believe that African Americans are less intelligent, and a football coach is a position that's seen to, we always talk about geniuses on each side of the ball, and if the trope against you is that you're not intelligent, getting jobs that require intelligence are just going to be hard for you to get for racists. And then if you talk about just in general, if you look at it in more general terms, people hire who is comfortable and convenient for them. The Panthers owner, for example, David Tepper, there was this story that was written, I believe it was in the Athletic, on him hiring Matt Rule. And one of the biggest drivers of that is that Matt Rule reminded him of him. They're both from the same area in Pennsylvania, and they remind each other of each other. And there's no situation in which I or Eric Bieniemy or any of these black coaches is going to remind David Tepper of himself. And that's not just a white thing. When I worked at AT&T, I had a friend who, a friend of a friend who reminded his district manager of his brother who had passed away, and he was Hispanic. So and there was, I won't say like he wasn't given a position, but obviously there's some favoritism and benefits that come with that. So I just think it's human nature. So one of the things that people have talked about is black owners, and I've seen again Bomani Jones push back against that, and my guy Chuan, shout out to him, has pushed back against that, saying they don't believe that black owners will treat black players or black coaches better. With the whole idea being that capitalism is inherently, I guess, an evil thing, and you can't make $1 billion by treating people well. And I generally disagree with that. I disagree with the capitalism premise in general, but the idea that a black owner wouldn't be more inclined to hire black people is, I just think it's fundamentally wrong. I mean, with black people, with any type of people, people, we tend to put people in buckets, and someone like Brian Flores, who is put in quote unquote the angry black man bucket. A black person who's grown up with black people their whole life is not going to view things in that prism. I just don't think so. So I do think one of the answers to this question for the NFL is, hey, can we get more black ownership? You have the Broncos that are going up for sale. But it's looking that they're probably going to fetch a price tag upwards of $2 billion. And if you just look at the Forbes list of African Americans, I mean, you generally know who they are, who are billionaires. That would take a substantial amount of their net worth to be the owner. And then, I've heard in different places that maybe they can come together to pool their money as a joint ownership group. But the problem with that is that generally the secondary owner is just an owner in name, not in control. And if you're going to be putting up that much money for something, you want some control. So I don't know, maybe Jay-Z gets it. He's done a lot of work with the NFL. Maybe this has been the climax of all those efforts, is that the apex is that he eventually owns a team. But once again, if the team is going to sell for $2 billion and he's roughly worth 1.9 or whatever Forbes says he's worth, there's a disparity there. He's going to have to he's going to have to sell everything he has or get a massive loan to be able to pay for the team. So we'll see what ends up happening in the future. If, people have just talked about discovery, but if they get it, then, I think it's going to be off the races. But if they don't, I think the next is going to happen in a lawsuit. I think Lovie Smith was definitely hired because of this. They were going to hire Josh McCown. It sounds like from all reports, but because of this situation, they didn't end up hiring him. Josh McCown, who's never had experience as a college coach, an NFL coach. He's an assistant to his high school football team in his area. I think his son plays for the team. He's an assistant for them. So it would have just been a bad look for them to hire him. My personal stance on it is like, hey, if that's the guy that you want to hire that guy. I think a lot of times with African-American coaches, and they talked about this, the type of job that they're getting are just not, good jobs. And you have to wear that record. They're going to, the first thing with Brian Flores, when they fired him, it didn't matter that the Dolphins were supposed to be historically bad his first season and they won 5 games. And they've seemed to have been punching above their weight his whole time. The first line when they fired him was they put up his record. So, Lovie Smith took the Texans job. I'm not sure if that's a good job or not. We'll see. They have a lot of cap space. They have a lot of picks. Do they really invest in trying to go for it this season? Or are they still playing the long game? Because once again, those records, that win-loss record is going to be put on his career. It doesn't matter that they were rebuilding. It doesn't matter that the Cleveland Browns were a historically bad team. That's on Hugh Jackson's record, and that's the way that they're going to look at it. So, and then there's the question too is, hey, if I turn down this job, they say, hey, I turned down the job. So, I mean, good luck to Lovey. They said he was stealth candidate. He came out of nowhere. It said it came down to McNown and Flores. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, it must be McNown because they damn sure ain't hiring Flores after he sues them, which is I mean, I think everybody understood that. You know, I think he understood that. You press that lawsuit forward. I mean, you're pretty much ending your career as a coach. So we'll see what happens in that. Another story, NFL, that I found interesting is Kyler Murray. He unfollowed the Cardinals. Um, that's weird because Kyler Murray, he had this historically bad playoff game, and he's always seemed like a guy that doesn't really make sense to me. Just the way, like, one of his biggest idols is Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee be like water. There was a ESPN story that was written about it, being calm in the face of adversity, flowing. But he always seems to me as someone that is highly emotional. So your idol is someone who talks about being like water and controlling your emotions. Well, you're very emotional. He seemed like he was just all over the place in that playoff game. And hey, people are allowed to make mistakes. This is his first playoff game. He's a young player, but he just seems like a very emotional guy. I remember I was a big fan of Kevin Sumlin when he was at Texas A&M, and he was a big Texas A&M recruit, and they brought him in while Kyle Allen was in at the same time, and they were at loggerheads, and both of the guys ended up transferring. But I remember him watching him play a couple games for Texas A&M, and it was the same thing, bad body language, or and maybe he just doesn't know it, but it just seems like he's just someone that's a bit of an enigma to me. And me and my guy RJ, we talked about the possibility of him going to play baseball. He was drafted by the A's. I think he was a lottery pick. I don't know if they use that term in baseball, but he was a high pick. I think he was the number 10 overall pick in baseball. So he's not some scrub. He's an actually really good baseball player. And he's mentioned that he misses playing baseball. So, with the body language that he has, and him unfollowing the Cardinals, maybe Mike Golick Jr. pointed out that maybe it just might be some Super Bowl PR stunt for a commercial that is tied into that. But I did talk about this with my guy once again about the possibility that, hey, maybe he says, what, this NFL thing, I'm not feeling, I'm gonna go play baseball. He said that he misses baseball, and his just energy just doesn't seem like a guy who is just in love with playing football and wants to play football the rest of his life. So I don't know. They don't allow dual sport athletes, especially with the money that's played to these athletes nowadays. But I think that is definitely something to keep your eye on. And just the NFC in general, because if you look at the NFC in general, the quarterback position seems like it's the levers are tipping to the AFC with the Mahomes and the Josh Allens and the Joe Burrows and the Justin Herberts. And there's talk that Aaron Rodgers might go to Denver, his offensive coordinator, who he loves at Green Bay, is the head coach of Denver now. So it seems like a lot of things are moving out of the NFC and moving to the AFC as far as the talent at the quarterback position. And if something crazy does happen with Kyler, usually teams say, we want to trade you out of the conference. That's what they usually say. We don't want you to be in the conference. So if this is a ploy to either A, play baseball, or two, to get traded, and they have to trade him out of the conference, I mean, that stacks up the AFC even more and then leaves the NFC in this idle position. So that's definitely something to look out for. Besides that, there's nothing really else that's going on. It's Super Bowl week. I think I didn't really get a chance to break down the games before, but I do think that the NFL is probably disappointed that it's not the Chiefs and it is the Bengals. I mean, it's a nice, cute story that, hey, this moribund franchise that had the number 1 overall pick 2 years ago is in the Super Bowl. And it does show why the NFL, just by the way that it's set up, teams can go from hot to done quickly, and they can have meteoric rises like the Bengals pretty quickly as well. So, but I do think, if in their heart of hearts, if this was the Chiefs versus the Rams in LA, with all the star power that the Chiefs bring, with all the star powers that the Rams bring, I mean, I think you might be looking at a $20 million viewer difference. They could have really pushed this Super Bowl to the moon, and the Bengals I just don't think they have the national cliche like that. And maybe this is the beginning of it. Joe Burrow is a hot name, won a national championship. Jamar Chase won a national championship. So maybe I'm even wrong. College football, this might bring a lot of college football fans who are tertiary fans into the NFL and might draw their interest and pique their interest into this game. So, but I think if you ask me in their heart of hearts, I think the NFL is disappointed that this is the Rams versus the Bengals, not the Rams versus the Chiefs. So once again, NFL Live, Stream of Consciousness. Subscribe. We're going to be putting out original content. If you're a basketball fan, I just dropped some original content. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Why I don't think that they should play together. So definitely look out for that. Subscribe, leave comments. I'm going to respond to them all. I'm going to be starting a Twitch stream here pretty soon. So I'll give you the information on that. Other than that, definitely tune in for the content that we got coming to y'all. Thank you.
So what's up, man? What's up with you otherwise, The game is a game. Always.